How many of you wanted an EMR for the pure pleasure of it? In other words, if EMR was not required for meaningful use and MIPS, etc., and there would be no penalties, how many of you would have purchased an EMR system? We can perhaps count the number of providers in this category by hand. As I go around talking to providers, here are some of the common objections, concerns, frustrations that I see. Productivity loss, too much time spent per patient finishing EMR notes on the computer, seeing less number of patients per day than before the EMR. And in spite of all this, spending less face time with the patient. Sure, there are benefits of the EMR, and we all know that. I mean, where folders and charts don't get lost and you can get access to the most recent notes very quickly. The problem is data entry. Even if you are a fast typist, there is way too much information that needs to be entered. In other words, you have become glorified data entry operators. Some providers may have tried software like Dragon Dictation, which certainly helps to a certain extent, especially when documenting the narrative, HPI and so on. You still need to do quite a bit of clicking. Let me take you back to the world before the EMR. You would walk up to the exam room, pick up the patient folder, flip a few pages in the previous charts, and start your conversation with the patient. You maintain eye contact with the patient, and you knew that they knew that you were listening to them with empathy. You had paper templates in front of you, where you circled a few things, jotted down a couple of sentences and observations, and when you left the room, you were pretty much done. You handed off the pieces of paper to your staff. Some of you took these handwritten notes and scribbles back home or stayed in office a little bit late to finish and polish up your notes and super bills. Some of you also picked up a dictaphone and dictated a detailed note that will be transcribed by someone and sent to you in something like a Word document format. By the way, it is interesting that many of you complained that you were tired of taking those papers, charts back home and finishing them off while watching TV. But that's a different story, right? Even though you complained at that time, many of you crave to get those good old days back. Now, as far as technology is concerned, I've looked at existing and emerging technologies, evaluating things like artificial intelligence and learning systems, including natural language processing, etc. I've come to the conclusion that at this time, at this moment, the best way for you to stop being a data entry operator is to partially go back to the way you did things. I'm going to suggest that you stop being a data entry operator. This means you go back to your dictaphone and dictate everything into the microphone. Not only findings, but also the assessment and plan and other things. Using paper templates and super bills to circle diagnoses, procedures, office visit codes, orders, etc. And I even dare you to tell you that you should write paper scripts for prescriptions. I know, don't worry. I'm going to show you how that can be done electronically by to comply with e-prescriptions. Let me dissect that for you in a hypothetical workflow. When you walk into the exam room, there'll be a computer screen instead of paper where you will review all the past notes, test results, and past history and medications and so on are all there for you to review very quickly on the screen. You examine the patient, you talk to them like in the past, but you would simply document all of this on paper, super bill, orders, procedures. When the patient is done, you walk outside, hand over those papers to your assistant, you pick up the dictaphone from the coat pocket and start dictating notes. There will be, at this point, some back end work that other people will do. And we won't get into the details of how that happens right now, but that will convert paper notes and dictations into the EMR for you to view. Also, don't worry about the cost. I know what you're thinking, because I will show you how this will either be a zero sum or a positive revenue gain. So the next thing you'll have to do after that as a part of the workflow is, depending on the number of patients that you see per day, you spend an average of an hour or so reviewing everything that you did that is now ready for you in your EMR for you to sign off. Now, in this talk today, I'm not going to get into the actual process of how this would happen, but I do want to focus only on one big factor, which is costs and expenses. The first and most important assumption and assertion is that you believe and you know that if you do not do data entry, you will be able to see more patients per day, and you have the current patient volume to allow you to do so. So two things: you will be able to see more patients per day, and you have the current patient volume to allow you to do so. So what you're going to do is create a very simple spreadsheet like this. First, determine how many patients do you see per day. Okay. Second, estimate your capacity. How many more patients per day can you see? What is your average revenue per patient? How much would it cost to hire a transcriptionist or a data entry operator? Now, I'm going to venture at this point that majority of you will come to the conclusion that these numbers will show positive cash flow. Whatever is most important, I guess, for you should be the value of stress-free living, right? Going back home on time, and that is priceless. So the next question is, how does all this work? It is all about establishing an optimal process and workflow in your office, and it'll vary a lot depending on the individual practice and the personnel and so on. But I can certainly help you with this if you like. And that's it. Thank you.